So welcome everyone. Welcome back. Today we are on the 26th of December, 2025. 2025, and with me we have a very unusual, interesting, path-breaking guest who uh, who is known to many people by name but not by face. So we will immediately meet our guest of today, and that is Marlon Menezes. So Marlon is a US based Goan. His claim to fame and much more is that he started Goa's first internet based website. And the website is actually was called GoaWeb. It turned into GoaCom. Many of you would have heard GoaCom, would have heard of GoaCom, and along the way, it became extremely popular. GoaCom became extremely popular. It was the first website started almost exactly 30 years back, a little bit before 30 years, we can say, because it actually started in 1994. So, without doing too much ado or introducing Marlon apart from what he's going to tell us, let's get speaking straight to Marlon. Welcome to Goa, Marlon. I know it's a Christmas season. You're busy. Thank you for taking time.
Thank you for having me, Fred. Thanks for remembering the glory days or the fun days in the
it
past.
it was amazing. The way 30 years have passed is amazing. We are all in our early 60s. At least I am. You're younger. But
I'm 57.
57,
So,
great. So in somewhere in 1994, three things came about. GoaCom, which was GoaWeb at that time, yours, Goa World by Yuli Menezes, and GoaNet by our friend Herman Carnero.
yeah,
Tell us how Goa Web happened.
yeah. It actually did start in 95. So Go on Net started in 94, right, with Herman.
Yeah.
And so, the reason, the motivation, there were several motivations for that with Go on Net, right?
Yeah.
It was at a time when, communication was at a premium. To be able to reach out to people across the world was not something that was cheap or convenient. And so for example, when I would call my parents up, I would make a list of things that I would have on my plate to chat with them, and I would call them up, and it would be very expensive. Whether calling to Goa or before the war in Kuwait, and so it was dollars a minute, which at that time and even now is still a lot of money. And so, having that, it was really odd at that time. It was really the main form of communication was by snail mail, as you would call it. And so having this ability to then, send emails and then, get a response within, 24 hours or whatever was kind of a breakthrough in a sense. It was a revolutionary for us, and from a cost perspective, it was great. And so, that was part of it. Part of it was also the trauma, I would say, of, say the Gulf War, for example, where, once we lost touch with family in Kuwait, we really had no way of keeping in touch with them for like months, really. I mean, the next time I heard from them, I spoke to them on the day of the invasion, and the next time I heard from them was when they were in Baghdad a few months later. So, just that, so it's just the rapid and convenient communications that sort of established, that sort of set GoNet in a spat.
Just to interrupt. Sorry. Carry on.
No, okay. The second thing was obviously, for us overseas, we were far away from home. And so the lack of community in the United States and Canada, very big countries where, people are far apart from each other. The density of, say, the Goan diaspora is pretty low there, pretty limited. Especially in Toronto, it's different. Even at that time there were lots of Goans, but outside of Toronto, the rest of North America, Goans were pretty far apart from each other, and so trying to get in touch with folks was not possible. You really didn't know who was where and who was who, and so that was sort of like the ability to connect with people locally sort of was was definitely another big change with the advent of the internet and GoNet initially. So that's GoNet. So that was Fred. Sorry, that was Herman, and then of course Fred. Obviously, you played a very big role in it in Goa. Good
I came
morning.
later. I came later, six
Yeah,
months
yeah,
later or so.
yeah. Then by in the around that time, the World Wide Web was sort of was sort of in its early stages, and I just happened to have I was at the University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign. I was actually an engineer, more in, not like a metallurgical engineering, but my roommates were computer science folks, and so then they introduced me to the World Wide Web. At that time it was through the modem. It was a 14.4, which was actually pretty good. It was that was state of the art in 1994, 1995. And so around that time, and so basically 1995 was when I sort of first really saw the internet, early internet, the web. The University of Illinois, where I was at, was sort of like as kind of like the frontier of the browser development. Mark Andreessen, who was the founder of Netscape, was a student there, and then he and his I guess his group had developed the first browser, which was called Mosaic.
You knew these
And
guys? You knew these
so,
guys?
sorry.
Did you know these guys firsthand?
No. I didn't know them. And but
Subsequently?
my roommates sort of knew of them
Okay.
or knew them. They were in the same department. So it was a big university, but when I saw the first browser, I was like, it was pretty mind blowing at that time. To have a graphical, it added the layer of images and the graphics on top of the text, which was at that time the predominant form of by email or by other chatting methods. And so that was pretty, that sort of the visual aspect of it was pretty incredible. And at that time I said, okay, yeah, we have the text part of it, the ability to communicate by email and all. And what about being able to then communicate or send information via the web? And I mean that's what it was meant for. And so it was just a very small step to then extend it to to say, hey, go up, why do something to do something that's different that hasn't been done before. And that's the whole concept of Goa Web started. Goa and web, pretty pretty basic combo. No marketing, thoughts of marketing or whatever. It was just combine the two, and that's how the first browser. I mean, the first site, Goa, the site for Goa came about.
But
And
let me interrupt you
I
here.
had
Let me interrupt you here if you don't mind.
yes,
I've just realized I've not introduced you adequately enough. So here's Marlon. He's in his early 20s if I'm not mistaken. He
he, yeah,
he's a ex-Kuwait Goan who studied in Mount Abu in Rajasthan, and he's in the US. He's in the UIUC. I remember that abbreviation
yeah,
from your email address.
yeah,
Marlon at UIUC something dot
yeah,
edu or something like that.
yeah,
And he is now on his way to set up Goa's first internet site.
yeah,
Together with these two others, so there is a bit of debate over who came first because Yuli, I'm not getting into that and I'm not creating a
mhm,
rift here. But Yuli, who was Marlon's schoolmate or classmate, set up something very similar in Kuwait within a few weeks or months gap or whatever it is.
yeah,
That's not important. But Marlon sets up GoaWeb.
yeah,
GoaWeb becomes slowly it grows into a internet-based organization, into an actual commercial organization. It starts working from Marlon's dad's place in Miramar. I remember in the loft on in his dad's place in Miramar.
yes,
It was a bungalow there, and then after it gets another premises in the Kampal Trade Center, which was pretty big, pretty impressive. A lot of government officials came for the inaugural. I remember being there, and it creates some of the first web pages that Goa had online. And to understand the historicity of this, Goa, this small place, was actually one of the first few places in the country which had their own internet communication going on, the connections with the diaspora, and it became pretty powerful over time. So anyway, I'll leave Marlon to let him tell you the story. This was just by way of background. But I want you, Marlon, to tell us what you felt when you created this page, and how much time and trouble did it take, and did you expect it to work, not to work, what?
Yeah, so I mean, initially it was, again, just a totally fun project. It's something that I felt again just to get the connections going with people all the Goan diaspora as well as with Goa, going, and so the ability to educate my fellow colleagues in the United States, for example, about Goa was also something that they like the whole lab, the whole research lab and at the university kind of knew about Goa by the time I set it up, because it was sort of like it was an engineering lab, but the most popular site at that time was on their server. It was on the university server, was actually GoaWeb. It was like like 100 times more popular than anything else. It was
Wow.
more popular than anything else in the entire university almost. Okay, so so a lot of the folks there at the labs, they kind of found out about it, and they would ask me questions about Goa and things like that. So it was a great way to educate my fellow my fellow classmates, my fellow lab mates, I should say, about the about Goa and the history, because most people don't know about. I mean, for them, India is this mystical place, where everyone wears turbans and whatever, right? And then to have them learn about Goa was something that was quite out of the ordinary. It was quite different from their expectations. So that was one thing. But for me also personally, it was people getting in touch with me after that, like you, and so many other people from Goa itself, just being able to communicate and talk to folks from pretty much the rest of the world, especially from Goa, was sort of a very very inspiring for me to sort of say, hey, this is something that is something that can connect people. And initially it was low resolution images. I remember getting some pictures from my uncle, and scanning them and putting them up on like on the beaches of Goa, and like the Viceroy, the Arch of the Viceroy, for example. Just these random pictures of Goa. And but people love them. The comments. Like for example, I remember one of my stories was about going to Kalangut and getting your ears cleaned, for example. And that was so like something so weird. I mean, to people it was like whoa, but it was so eclectic that it sort of struck with people. And so that's kind of how it started. And then my extended family in Canada, they sort of, my uncle, John
John
D'Souza,
D'Souza.
he and his friend said, hey, we should maybe, formalize this thing. And so they said, okay, let's form. There was their idea to form GoaCom. It was John and Tim, and um, and then I sort of joined in with them. I really at that time, and even now I was not really interested in the commercial aspect of it. It was more of a fun thing, but at the same time, as a student, I had no way to really expand it, and to even to sustain it or even to add content to it. And so the thinking was, hey, we can make, if you can generate revenue as well as then fund some of this work, then that would be something that way to really expand the site. And that's sort of how we kind of say. And then at that point, I said, why have two different sites? And then we just combined it into one, and just to keep it simple. And so that's how GoaCom was born. You know.
The idea itself was pretty amazing, I know, because you all supported a whole lot of ventures. You all would give
Yeah.
free space to NGOs. We would share content with you all, and you all would help us in terms of different kinds of solutions. I remember
Hmm.
that I got access to my first. I'm jumping ahead of the story, but got access to my first digital camera, which
Oh yeah.
which was a
Yeah.
Agfa E304 or something like that. and it was thanks to you all guys and contributors online and things like that. Then you also helped us with some recording equipment which was before its time, so we were struggling to set it up in those days, audio recording.
Yeah.
And it was an extremely high resolution audio recorder, but in those days doing audio recording was not easy and all. Anyway, that's a separate story. But you all also set up web pages for a whole lot of Goan small businesses, which gave them prominence online and things like that. So it
Yes.
really played out. But do you remember on which day you set it up and what you felt after setting it up?
I think it was sometime in August of '95 was when I sort of officially, I think, released it, GoaWeb at least. Um, that's kind of when I officially kind of released it. GoNet was like a year before that, and
Okay.
pretty much a year before that in August of, I
94.
mean, it's just sort of started as it's basically sometime in the middle of '94 was when GoNet started,
Yeah.
and then middle of '95 was when GoaWeb started.
And Goa World?
Go World, I think it started maybe about my guess, and again,
Yeah.
I exactly don't know when it started, but I think it started maybe a few months or maybe 6 months later or a year later,
Okay. Okay.
and I think in '96 was when Yuli started it, and we're still very good friends.
Yeah.
There was some tension in between,
Yeah, yeah. Some
but
friendly rivalry in that sense, friendly rivalry,
yeah,
and some crossfire and things like that. But it's
yeah.
amazing. Also, when you got it started, what did you feel like? Eureka? Was it your Eureka moment or moment?
Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not a computer guy,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, but then, at that time, at least basic HTML was something that was really simple, but at that time, you had to type everything yourself, everything,
Coding.
the coding had to be done pretty much manually, digit by digit. But it was, very simple web pages with minimal formatting, but as far as yeah, I mean, the Eureka movement was not setting it up, but it was just getting the feedback from everyone. That people reaching out to me and saying, "Hey, this is pretty cool," and can you add this information or all that kind of thing. So that was the Eureka movement, just people getting back to me.
So on the screen is an image of the page in its early shape, and there is a discussion going on here about some NRI convention and whether it's the right thing the government is doing. And GoaCom, even in its commercial avatar, was very much a community kind of building website. I remember you all created spaces for all villages which you all gave out free, and for all expat communities and NGOs also.
Yeah.
What were the high points you remember of GoaCom? If I had to ask you for three of the most interesting points, what would you remember?
I would say, let's see. That's a tough question. Let me see. I mean, I don't know if there were any specific high points. I would say, working, for example, with like, say, for example, when you started posting your articles automated. You'd actually send it directly to GoNet, and it would automatically appear on the website in real time. Your ability to add pictures and everything as attachments, so that it was basically trying to make news and information easier, to for you to send without having to work with a web designer or whatever to format it and do all that kind of stuff, and then to format pictures and all. You would just you could, for example, just send an email to GoNet, which at that time was very closely tied to Go with GoaCom, and to then attach your pictures, for example, and then it would appear within like seconds. You emailed it, and
Yeah.
the article as well as pictures would appear, and in an easy to access, very accessible format for people online to access. So to me, that was something that the instantaneous communication of of images as well as text was something that was, I think, pretty big achievement at that time. Just the ability to combine that. Before that, you had to, when you would send an article, it had to be maybe, edited by someone, and the pictures had to be attached manually and everything. And it was just slow, and then this ability to do it instantaneously was pretty much a game changer. That's, to me, was probably the biggest one. I would say, we'd set up some databases on say the overseas associations, for example. You could just go and search, for example, hey, you're in this country, you're in this city, look for something, and boom, something will pop up. So that you could then navigate through information very quickly. So again, it's all just making it easier for people to communicate was and to get information they wanted was something that was really the sort of the game changer. So yeah, I would say that, and there was all kinds of other stuff as well happening. Again, it's all about building the networks, interacting with people. We had a bulletin board as well that was very popular. It's kind of run parallel with GoNet. That again, people would start wars on, and there were wars on GoNet as well. Which we all participated in one form or the other. But yeah, so all of that sort of was again the community and the ability to communicate fast and instantaneously was the key, was the game changers, I would say.
To me, the biggest achievement was the way it empowered small businesses and also NGOs, village groups, non-profits to get online, to have visibility there. That
Yeah.
was one.
Yeah.
The second thing I think was, in terms of building the community, which was amazing. We discovered all kinds of people. And although
Yeah.
I was sharing my information for free, I always keep saying that what I gave to the net, I got back maybe 100-fold or 1,000-fold, because I was just going into freelancing then, and it was very iffy. And people would give me contacts to, for stories, and it really changed the way we saw Goa and its diaspora in particular. That was
Right.
another achievement. And the third was the way it transitioned into being, successfully driven commercially. It survived for quite a number of years. It played an important role. After which time, like all technologies, it kind of outlived itself, and
Yes.
youngsters started creating websites. So that role was
Yeah.
not so important. Who were the other guys involved? You mentioned John D'Souza, who is no more, I
Yeah.
think, your uncle,
John D'Souza,
and Tim
he
DeMello.
was my mom's cousin,
Okay.
basically. And he was from Africa, and then lived in Canada. And then he had a friend, Tim DeMello,
Yeah.
who was also based again from Africa, who lived in Canada. So those two were the
Main pillars.
primary
Yeah.
people that pretty much initiated GoaCom.
We can't not speak about GoaCom without thinking of our late friend Joel, who passed away a bit early.
Yes.
And
Yes.
he was a great guy to send news. And everyone
Yes.
started joking. I think Cecil said it, that Joel is a guy who has a camera welded onto his hand, because he was all over the place with the digital camera, which was quite
Yes.
an amazing
Yes.
instrument. And then the early team, people like Freddie and this lady from Shura.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away as well.
Freddie
He
passed
was
away.
one of the key designers. The early team was Freddie, Marilyn,
Marilyn.
Luann. I
Luann.
think you introduced her to us.
Not me,
right?
Ricky did it. Ricky introduced
Or maybe Ricky
my
did,
brother.
yeah. And then Johnny.
Johnny.
Freddie, Johnny. So those were the four original
Yeah.
folks that sort of operated from my upstairs, up there.
Yeah,
Up
yeah,
there.
yeah. Oh, up there. I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah.
And your dad played an important role, cool and calm as always.
Yeah. He was the perennial optimist.
Yeah. And at its peak, it had a lot of clout. You mentioned the bulletin board, which was some kind of discussion group where people could meet up and chat. And although for us, we couldn't take part because net connectivity was very slow in Goa.
Yes.
Uh, You mentioned a 14.4 kbps modem, and at that time, what struck my mind was Boogie Villegas, Joseph Boogie Villegas,
Yes.
this engineer who was based in Goa for SR in those days, and now he is in some part of Latin
He's in
America,
Costa Rica.
And we met him that day online. He came for one of these old reminiscences about
Oh, really?
pre 2000 web people. It was a pan India group, so he was there. And Guru Nandan Bhatt, of course, was a big player. Who are the others you remember?
The guy from NIO, what was his name?
This
Arvind? No.
Chavan. No, I know. Yeah.
Which
Vishwas Chavan.
yeah,
Vishwas
yes,
Chavan.
yes, yeah,
Who would
yeah,
send
yeah,
news? Who would send news? Because NIO had access to the net, and much before
yeah,
we started, he would send news
yeah,
to,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
was much appreciated because those days there were no websites around. You know.
yeah.
Who else?
I would say, you mentioned something, some of the things that I think were very impactful was, in the Computers for Going Schools project, for
Yeah.
example, that was kind of, it was through GoNet, GoaCom, and then Daryl Martyrus,
Emmanuel,
and then Emmanuel, yes,
Emmanuel what?
Emmanuel De Silva
De Silva.
from the World Bank.
Right.
So those people, in fact, and I still keep in touch with them. Um, and so
That was.
I think that was a very impactful project.
If I could say a word about that, just to interrupt. So this Goa, we felt at that time, this is a very happy story. At that time, we felt that Goan school kids needed access to computers. So it started by a few Goans donating, putting together, collecting money, and funding one or two computers. Then the idea grew, and they said, why not? We can scale it up. So Daryl Martyrus, this former journalist, came up and said, I can buy computers, use computers by the container load. So everyone supported him and raised money and all, and he sent the containers, one container of computers, a full container of computers. I still remember it. I've got pictures of it somewhere. And it got stuck at the customs, India being India and things like that. They said, no, you all are doing it for profit and we can't let you take it in and all. So anyway, we got permission and it came in. And then it doesn't end there. The story doesn't end there. The story finally, because there was so much publicity over it, it triggered off ideas in other people's minds. And one of the subsequent chief ministers, that is Parikar, started this cyber aid scheme where all students would get computers and things like that. So it just shows the power of an idea. And I think, Marlon, whatever you did, whatever you all guys did, many people were involved. Other ventures, parallel ventures, also showed that power of that idea. It was amazing.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then actually, it also shows something else as well. Often it's not with the initial computers project. After we going through all the custom issues and all that, the biggest thing what it showed us was that
it's not
uh,
often not the hardware
it's
that's
not
the
often not
limiting
the
factor,
hardware
it's the
that's the
people.
limiting factor, it's the people.
And
It's a mindset.
And
It's a mindset.
you know,
Mindset.
the mindset of
the
the
mindset
teachers,
of the teachers, for example, the staff, they treated these computers as these holy objects that should only be touched, in a very controlled environment, and they should be respected and honored. And so, it sort of destroyed or sort of reduced the spontaneity of kids working on computers and everything, and also often the teachers often knew less about the computers than the kids, and so they were the bottleneck often. And so what it kind of also taught people was that, hey, it's not just computers. You need to actually, the people, the people skills basically of the teachers needs to be upgraded as well, so that they don't treat this as an alien object, but something that is sort of can be used on a casual basis, and it does not, they should not be the bottleneck of this, and that's something that was actually a big revelation. Was it's not just putting money or computers, you need to also train the people and the staff to educate the kids.
I remember our volunteers, Ashley Delaney, slogging without his shirt or with a banyan or something, carrying computers, and he was a
Yeah.
hardware guy. He still is. It was at some go down in Porvori where all these guys. I have photos of that. That's amazing. In parallel, some of us, uh, the Taliban of the internet, if I could call it that, were promoting free software and open source. And you helped us. You helped us. That's Arvind and all of us to get access to our first Red Hat pack. I remember you brought it during one of these Christmas reunions, which
Oh
we used to
yeah,
have.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you gave us a Red Hat 5.4 or something like that, and it was amazing. Wow, like so many of us shifted over to that. So it spurred, like, I have in my folder till date, in my email I have a folder called Goa initiatives, and all these initiatives are things that started from the net. People suggesting one small thing. If I'm into book publishing today, it also comes from the fact that we suddenly realized it was so difficult to publish a book in Goa, so why not create something ourselves? So it went off in all kinds of directions, and I remember doing a web page for on Moira for y'all, And my job was to click the pictures, and there were these two persons who were helping with the text. One was Glennis and this guy called Gordon. And Glennis and Gordon are a couple with kids, and they got married subsequent to. So the kind of trigger effect which was started in cyberspace. You never know where it ends up.
Yeah.
And things we remember. If we talk about names, we remember so many things. If I say James Almeida, then you'll probably say Sharon, because that was another
Yes.
couple that got together on the net, on different
Yeah.
networks, maybe GoaNet also, and they actually got married. And I remember you joking and saying that we can screen the wedding online, and people thought it was a good idea. And then you said we can screen the honeymoon online, and everyone got bugged with you and said, "What rubbish are you talking?" So like it was a safe space where we could in that sense have our own jokes, and sometimes it went beyond limit, and sometimes it resulted in fights and all these kind of things. But who else do you remember? Of course, we can't forget Eddie Fernandez.
Oh yes, Eddie Fernandez. Yes.
I remember.
mean, he's
Sorry. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie Fernandez was, he's a librarian. I mean, he's retired now. The librarian always, had access to information, as a librarian to articles. He was able to search and, get that, customized sort of information sent to people. Of course, he started his, and it's still, I believe it's still going strong, his Go and Voice UK website, which is probably, I would say now, the oldest running, continuously running, Go on website, from that era that is still running, I believe, even now. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty incredible what, he did and continues to do, I believe, even today.
No, just a small correction on that. It stopped a few months back, sadly.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
but to fill in what you said, Eddie was in his 50s when we all were in our 30s. So that was 30 years back. Now he's in his mid 80s. So he's just catching up with all of us. And he couldn't sustain it. But
Yeah.
he did an amazing job of it as long as it was going. Every evening he would spend hours scoring the net. And he found this kind of stories on Goa which none of us were even remotely aware of, And he would
Yeah.
document them on goanvoice.org.uk, which, as you said, him being a librarian, he was an engineering librarian. I remember the first time we got in touch, he, instead of writing to me because he had so much to say, he recorded his voice on some cassette tapes and sent me 2 or 3 or 4, I don't remember how many of them. And he mentioned a whole lot of things. He had some good plans and good ideas and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
Go and Voice was there. Any other people you remember from the early days? Of course, Samir Kerekar is still around. He's
Is
still
he?
active,
Okay.
still active in Bangalore, very much active.
Mhm.
So I dragged him in for this reminiscences which someone called the Goa project had recently. It's a pan-India group, mostly Bangalore-based techies. So they call themselves
Yeah.
the Goa project, but its focus is pan-India. And
Yeah,
Samir was
yeah.
there for that. So Samir was also US educated. Which university?
I don't know, but I don't know. I really don't know. But I think he studied. He was in California for a little bit as well. I know that.
Yeah.
We met. I mean, he visited me in California, but that was afterwards when he was there for work. But,
Okay.
I don't know where he studied actually.
So many names, and all kinds of people.
Yeah,
Jose, they
Jose
were
Colasso.
Jose Colasso, who passed away. And we would,
Yeah.
some of us were like, chemicals we just didn't bond. So we'd keep fighting with each other. I think it was also an ideological perspective that, we didn't agree. So we
Yeah,
had that
yeah.
old baggage that would come.
Yeah.
And
Then of course, there was Vivian
Yeah,
Coelho, which
Vivian
was an
Coelho.
oddball person there.
So
I know.
Vivian Coelho is of Italian descent, and she was married to a Goan, so she was admin
Yeah,
on
yeah,
GoaNet.
yeah. So that was like you wouldn't expect her to be
Yeah.
an admin of, the activities over there.
Yeah.
I still in touch with her. I met her
I
a few
see.
months ago.
I see.
So that's then there's Cecil Pinto who
Yeah,
was very
of course.
active.
Yeah.
Um,
From
I
Goa,
mean,
there were a
yeah.
few. Yeah, there were a few from
Yeah.
Goa who joined later. But because net access was a problem in the early days. Then after
Yeah.
97, things ironed out quite a bit in Goa. And I would
Yes.
give credit to all of you all guys who were making the noise in the West. So much so that the officials in India realized that Goa is an important place. We need to kind of have a internet node for them. So the 4 metros and Goa were given internet nodes at about the same time, which was 15th August 1997, which was very early for us. And after that, access became easy. though it was still costly. We paid 500 rupees for a for 500 for 100 hours, I think, of
Yes.
plain text usage, and 5,000 rupees for 100 hours of graphical users usage and things like that.
So let me go up for a few minutes. Let me show you. There's people coming down. So let me show you the
Sure,
what's left of GoaCom.
sure, sure,
The
sure,
upstairs, the just for memory,
sure,
just go
sure,
on
sure.
memory lane.
Yeah, I won't
And
take your time. We'll wind up soon. I know you're on holiday, so just show us
no, no,
after.
it's fine. Let me just give you a quick.
That's great.
It's pretty much it's like a sort of a ghost
So
of
you
itself.
you subsequently did your PhD in applied materials, material science. Was
Yeah,
that?
in material science. Yes, I did
Okay.
that at UIUC, and let me show you what's. If there's still, there's a lot of stuff that's still there. Uh, so this is sort of. Let me give you a spin around.
Okay.
Uh, Now that there's some desks and all over there.
Yeah.
And then there was, yes, that's the
I
desk
remember
there.
that place. I remember that place.
There's books and all over here. Um,
Oh wow, that's history.
like all the
There were just two or three desks and computers there, no? That's it. What's that?
this is all kinds of books. There's some Internet Web Directory from 1999.
Wow.
This is before Google, when
Wow.
and even before Yahoo and all. You relied on all kinds of you know books. Often it was for like an old Linux book.
Wow.
So there's still a lot of old stuff still remaining.
Amazing.
I don't know why my dad keeps it here, but there's all kinds of fun stuff.
Amazing, amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. One last point. I just like to make a last point
Yeah.
and leave it at that. Uh, I often remind people that, see, the historicity of your work, Herman's work, Yuli's work, has to be seen in the context of its times. As you just said, I tell people, like, these guys did things much before Facebook came, much before Orkut came, much before, say, Twitter came, much before most of the social networking sites came, and they did everything before Google came. So just imagine how old is that. Okay, because
Yeah.
we are a small community, we were not grown so much. The impact of it was huge in its time. The archives are still there, especially some GoaNet archives, though we lost quite a bit of the early days because we kept shifting servers. You all also hosted GoaNet for quite some time, so we are
Yes.
grateful for that. I think this part of history needs to be recorded. We may have not done justice in terms of mentioning so many people who were there. Maybe I need to follow it up with a series of interviews and record the role and the contribution and the support given by so many people. Time just flies. I remember, last point, I remember going, because we were helping GoaCom, we would be invited for GoaCom events. So I remember going with your folks for a picnic to Bat Island or Grand Island or something, and my daughter was 6 months old or something like that. And the canoe which we went in was like about 6 inches above the water mark. And, like, I always think, what a risky thing to do, not to take such a small kid, because if it tipples over, that's it. But it was great fun, and those times they were totally unforgettable. I think we need to record it. Anything you'd like to add, Marlon? Remember people, pay tribute. Of course, we are going to forget tons of names here because it's like 30 years of history. It was active from which year to which year, and when did it formally close?
Basically, it was active, say, from 96-ish to my role ended there in approximately 2007. And I think it closed maybe a few years ago, actually.
I see.
Maybe it was, but it was already kind of, I would say right around 2010 was sort of, pretty much, its significance had already diminished. And, we can often talk about that as well, what happened. And, technology, as you said, moves on. Google and Facebook pretty much, I would say, killed it. Google, from an information point of view, like maps and everything. We had our own maps and everything, but Google, just the scale of their ability to add information was, far, and automate the ability to add information far surpassed anything that we could do. And then of course Facebook with their social aspect of it, they were able to connect with people, and far more efficient, maybe, and maybe we can say in some ways it also has its own negative issues, but I would say those two platforms pretty much made GoaCom irrelevant at that point. And we had a choice at that point to become more social media kind of it, I mean, in a sense, become more, go into media, go into the social networking aspect of it. um, but in the end, I don't think it would have, that would have extended our life a little bit more. But in the end, it would have still been, overwhelmed by these forces that were coming up.
Just so as not to end on a negative note, and also because it's true, two things strike me. The first is that your contribution, GoaCom's contribution, was that you all generated original content, and you all did
Hmm.
it, while Google and all that are kind of stealing, taking over existing content and just repackaging it. You all guys actually encouraged us to produce a content, to share it. And what was most innovative, you all, even though you all were not media people, you all understood that not everyone has a price, not everyone is doing it for money, some people are doing it for the passion. So how to tap this passion, and how to have a give and take kind of, you give them space and they give you content,
Yeah.
and those kind of things, which was really appreciated. That was the first one. And the second thing that struck me was that you all guys made it viable between you, the late John, and Tim, who's still going strong. You all made the full thing viable in the sense that you had salaries to pay, you had designers to employ, so you all did that and you all kept it viable. And at the same time, you all created websites for these small players, many of which were really small players, and still it wasn't at a huge price. It didn't cost an arm and a leg. They could get online, they could get the benefits of being in cyberspace. I think the impact is something which people have not woken up to. One fine day, when we are all gone, that time they'll sing praises and say, yeah, these guys did something great. But that's Goa for you. Thank you so much, Marlon, for everything. I think maybe we need a bigger meeting with more people involved, and something like that. I know you're having your 30th reunion soon, so all the very best, and
Thank you.
keep it up, and don't forget this history, and let's not allow others to forget it either. Last
Well,
words.
thank
Last
you.
words.
Well, I would say thank you too as well, Fred, for keeping the drive going with 30 years on, and it's like it looks like you haven't changed in your passion. I mean, I have kind of moved on from those days,
What do you do now?
but
What do you do now?
I mean, I mean, I have my work, but I do other stuff. I do like beekeeping. I do like honey
Wow.
production as a hobby,
Wow.
and I do other stuff, sports, triathlons, and things like that. So I've kind of moved
Marathons. You
on.
went to marathons that time, no?
Yeah, triathlons, yeah,
Okay.
triathlons.
Triathlons.
And then I do, but beekeeping is a big thing of mine right now, where I do a
Wow.
lot of
Wow.
honey, extraction and all that
That's in
stuff. So
California, in
it's
Silicon
in
Valley.
Texas
Texas,
now.
Texas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
work. Can you explain your work? Last thing, then I will not keep you.
Yeah, yeah. With work, there's pretty much, there's, you have information, and maybe it's something that's a start of a new trend, which may be negative as well. Basically, information. Right now things move from the computers to mobile to your phones, right? The next phase is basically smart wearable glasses, so that the content gets displayed onto your glasses. So that's sort of happening, on a pretty much that ecosystem is starting up right now, and you will see a lot of stuff, coming up by end of 26, and it'll just get, that's part of it. So whether that's good or bad, that's it can be bad, if there's information in your face literally all the time. But obviously you can turn it off and on. But if you're hooked on it, then that maybe that's not a good thing. But that's where the industry is moving, and so you have all these big companies trying to sort of outmaneuver the competition, like how Google came in to outmaneuver Microsoft, and now, and then there's Meta, Facebook, and then there is all these other companies now trying to develop their own new ecosystem to to surmount Apple or Google. So that's all happening now, and the thought is that the next frontier is wearables, and that's where the next ecosystem that is sort of potentially taking off now.
Some public address people can contact you on, if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, I mean my email, it's mmenezes@gmail.com.
Menezes,
So
one word.
menezes @gmail.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me, I guess. I mean, I'm on WhatsApp. I mean, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a number I'll give you, but I can share with you, and you can always
Sure.
you have my WhatsApp. You
Sure,
can share that
sure.
as needed. But yeah, but
Thanks a
that's
ton.
basically
Thanks a
it.
ton for taking time off on your holiday here. I really,
Oh no, thank you.
yeah.
Thanks for remembering. I mean, it's great that you remember the stuff. I mean,
We can't
it's
forget. We can't forget. It's a part of our growing up years. It's a part of
yeah,
our.
yeah, true.
All the best. Bye.
All right, thank you.